Hey guys, it's Greg. I'm back, and since it's December 30th, I thought it would be fun to take a walk down memory lane and look at the best books that I read in 2018. Now, these do not have to have been published in 2018, they just have to be something that I read within the calendar year. First, let's do a bit of a reading report card. I set a goal on Goodreads of reading 40 books in 2018 because it's been really busy in past years and I haven't had a chance to read as much as I would like. But I blew past that this year. I read 58 books, which is a personal best since I joined Goodreads 10 years ago. So, cheers to me. A big reason I was able to surpass that goal by so much is that I started listening to a lot of audiobooks in 2018. It started as podcasts in 2017, and this year it translated into books. And it really opened up a whole new world. Suddenly, I was listening to books in the car, doing projects for work, things like that. It opened up a whole new world, and hopefully it will only get better in 2019. I'll do another video for books that I'm looking forward to reading in 2019, but for now, let's get to 2018 and see what the best were. I'm not going to do this in any particular order except for the first one. The first one is my favorite book of 2018, and it's right here. It's The Great Believers by Rebecca Makkai. This is a beautiful book. I loved it very much. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Basically, it's about the fragility of life and how trauma ripples across time and never really goes away. It is fantastic. The structure of the book follows two storylines. The first one is in Chicago in 1980s, going into the 1990s by the end of the book. And it follows Yale Tishman, who works at an art gallery and whose friends are dying of AIDS one by one. And he is terrified that he's going to get it as well, and he's trying to navigate this world. He is also trying to buy an art collection from a woman who survived World War I, so there are kind of parallels to the lost generation of World War I and the generation of gay men who is dying of AIDS. And it's really well done. It's very beautiful and poignant and sad. There's a minor character named Fiona in Yale's storyline. She's the sister of a really good friend of Yale's who died in the very beginning. The second storyline follows Fiona in 2015 when she goes to Paris to find her daughter. The two storylines seem very opposite, but they really work well together. Rebecca Makkai does a great job creating these parallel structures and making them meaningful to each other, especially when you have the third storyline kind of in there with the World War I angle. It's very well done. It's meticulously plotted. It's very well written. The characters all feel very real, and it feels like they're making natural choices, even when they make mistakes, which is something that it's a pet peeve of mine in books. But everything here feels really organic and very well done. It actually made me cry, which a lot of books don't do. I can't recommend it enough. It is wonderful. So that's The Great Believers, and I'm going to put it right here since it was my favorite book of the year. The next book I'm going to talk about is nonfiction. Now, nonfiction is something I've really struggled to read a lot of for a while, and I've had a lot more success in recent years, especially in 2018. It is Pictures at a Revolution by Mark Harris. I discovered Mark Harris when he was working for Entertainment Weekly. He used to write a column for them, and it was really good. I looked forward to it every time it came out. Pictures at a Revolution is about the seismic changes in Hollywood in the 60s heading into the 70s, where the studio system collapsed and broke down, and Hollywood was just altered forever. The frame he uses for this is that he looks at the Best Picture nominees for 1968. Bonnie and Clyde, The Graduate, Dr. Dolittle, In the Heat of the Night, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. In telling the story of how these movies were made and how they succeeded and how they failed, Mark Harris really tells a wonderful story about Hollywood and about society and how it changed during the 60s. It is meticulously researched. It is very entertainingly written. So that's Pictures at a Revolution. Let's put it right there. The next one is kind of a gimme because it's a book I had already read before, and I reread it in 2018 because there was a movie version of it released in 2017. It's Call Me By Your Name, and it is one of my favorite books, and it continues to be one of my favorite books. If you don't know, Call Me By Your Name is the story of Elio and Oliver, who meet in the early 1980s in Italy and fall in love over the course of a summer. It is a really beautiful love story. It's very well written. There's a lot of stuff about like obsession and obsessive first love that can almost be a little creepy, but first love can be almost a little creepy. And it's just a really great book. I would recommend it. I also recommend the movie. The movie really takes a lot of this and portrays it on the screen without missing a beat. It's very good, and so is this. One more thing about Call Me By Your Name, it was actually the first book that was recommended to me by my husband back in 2010 or 2011, and the fact that he recommended it to me kind of gave him a lot of bonus points. Not kind of, it really did. So that's Call Me By Your Name. Let's put it right there. And the next book is There There by Tommy Orange. If you've ever read Louise Erdrich or Sherman Alexie, you probably have a very defined idea of what modern Native American literature looks like, and Tommy Orange really upends that. And considering that this is his first book, that's really saying a lot. It's a really bold achievement. It's about a large cast of characters who are kind of working their way toward a powwow in Oakland, where somebody's planning to rob it, and you know that there's going to be something violent that happens, and it's not going to be good. So as you get through the book, it really builds suspense in a way that doesn't feel cheap or unearned, because you really care about the characters. The best thing is, it sticks the landing. When you get to the end, it feels like it's really earned all of the emotion that you get there. So, that is There by Tommy Orange. Let's put it right there. I don't have a copy of the next book because I got it from the library. It is Evicted by Matthew Desmond. In Evicted, Matthew Desmond goes into the poorest neighborhoods of Milwaukee and looks at a couple of different families who are on the brink of just having nothing. And he talks about the housing crisis and how evictions used to be rare, but they've become profitable. And he goes really deep into the social aspect of it and how the people who are the landlords actively keep down and don't do things for their tenants and evict them to get them out and make money off of them. And how these people who are in poverty are stuck in this perpetual cycle where they can't get out and they can't get better. It's not a happy read, but it's a very good read. It's a very important read. Matthew Desmond makes it very readable. He's done a lot of research, but it doesn't feel super academic. It feels like he's telling you a story, and it's a very urgent story, something that you need to read, so I recommend it. I don't have a copy of the next book either, because I also got that from the library, but I want to get a copy for myself so I can reread it and take notes. It comes from my book bucket list. By the way, I will include links to all of these books below, and I'll include a link to the bucket list. The bucket list yielded one of my favorite books from last year as well, which was The Angle of Repose by Wallace Stegner. This year, it gave me The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton, which is a really good book. At its center, The Age of Innocence is a romance. It's about Newland Archer, who has the woman that he is engaged to, and then he falls in love with Madame Olenska, who he's not supposed to love, who's kind of socially disgraced. So it's also has that angle, kind of Jane Austen-ish, where it's about the social mores of the time, and it's very critical of them. Edith Wharton is very clever. She's a great writer. The book is savagely funny in parts, and it's really well told. There's a part of it where it's about how things change over time, and you can't stop it. One generation rejects what the previous generation did and moves in a different direction. But at the same time, they cling to what's familiar from the previous generation, and sometimes a lot of things change, but a lot of things don't change. And that push and pull makes it feel very relevant because things are very different now from the time when Edith Wharton wrote this. But there are ways that it's the same as well, and that's very interesting. And there you have it, my favorite books of 2018. Did you read any of these? Did you love them? Did you hate them? Let me know. I'd be interested. Based on these, do you have any other recommendations? Let me know that as well. I will do another video with the worst books that I read in 2018, and I'll do another video with books that I'm looking forward to reading in 2019. So if you have things like that, let me know that as well. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.